Welcome to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. We're applying the mind of Christ to the matters of the day so that you can connect the eternal with the everyday and get ready to head out into the world that God so loves in ways that honor Jesus. So let's get started. This is The Reconnect.
Your daily encouragement that God has the world in the hollow of his hand.
This is The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge on Faith Radio.
If we're gonna fly, we fly like eagles, arms out wide. If we're gonna fear, we fear no evil. We will rise. By your power, we will go. By your spirit, we are bold. If we're gonna stand, we stand as giants. If we're gonna walk, we walk as lions.
Hello, my friend. It's hour 2 of The Reconnect. We're going to survey some of the headline news of the day as we bring the mind of Christ to bear. And I am going to lead with news out of Venezuela. 2 of the most powerful earthquakes to strike Venezuela in 100 years occurred yesterday, late yesterday. The death toll now stands at 164, nearly 1,000 people injured in these 2 powerful earthquakes that took place late yesterday in Venezuela in the northern, affecting the northern states in that Caribbean-facing country, the very northeastern tip of South America. The United States and other international friends are surging aid to the region. But right now, they're literally just trying to find survivors, and they are seeking to identify, the injured and render aid. And I just think it's a good reminder that Jesus told us to expect these things. This is not something that we should be surprised by, frankly, and yet we find ourselves stunned, right? Jesus, while seated on the Mount of Olives, according to Matthew in Matthew 24, tells his disciples to expect famines and earthquakes in various places as a prelude to future events. Luke's recounting in Luke chapter 21 talks about the teaching of Jesus in the temple in Jerusalem, telling that there would be great earthquakes and famines and pestilence in various places, fearful events as great signs. And all of it would just be birth pangs, like the birth pangs of what was to come. And so again, I know that we imagine that we can build buildings that will not be shaken, or that we can build lives that would not be shaken. But the reality is, life is shaky. It just is. All of this today out of Venezuela, and certainly we want to be lifting up not only ardent prayers for the people of Venezuela and those who are right now seeking to render aid, but we want to pray that God would use this. God is able to use events like this to wake people up, to lead people to repentance, to demonstrate the goodness of the church. And so let us be agents of grace and ambassadors of the King and the kingdom, even in the midst of this. And so just encourage you on that front as well. All of this, as I was reading it this morning, reminded me of the events of last summer, of this coming week. It was a year ago this 4th of July that rivers in the hill country of Texas exploded with a surge of water and flash flowing mud and debris, and then everything else that was swept up in that. And it turned not just Camp Mystic, but that's the centerpiece of the conversation. It turned a whole swath of the Texas Hill Country into a death trap. And those catastrophic flash floods that swept through took 28 lives just at Camp Mystic alone. And yesterday, the Eastland family, who owns and operates Camp Mystic, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. There's just no way that ministry was going to survive. So for nearly 100 years, campers had attended sunrise communion services on what's called Chapel Hill, daily Bible studies, nightly cabin devotionals. And today, it stands bankrupt. But the loss is not just financial and financially catastrophic for the Eastland family, who also lost their husband. I mean, Dick Eastland was the leader of the pack, leader of the Eastland family, leader of Camp Mystic, and he died in the flood as well. And so his widow should be in our prayers. His children, who are also involved in the ministry of Camp Mystic, should be in our prayers. And yet, mostly, we have been focused on the loss of the families whose little girls died. And we have been very focused on Camp Mystic and the 28 lives lost there, and less intensely focused on the dozens of others who died in those catastrophic floods a year ago this week. 145 families lost loved ones. 116 of those deaths were in Kerr County alone, which is where Camp Mystic is located. But there were also deaths in Travis and Kendall, Burnett, Williamson, Tom Green, and Uvalde counties. It was a big geographic region that was affected by the Texas Hill Country flooding a year ago. Things move onto and off our radar fairly quickly. And so today, I might turn the globe toward Venezuela and try to train our attention there prayerfully and carefully, full of care and prayer for those people and that place. A year ago, we might have had the Texas Hill Country very intensely in focus. We have a listener to the program who is a supporter of the ministry who's currently in Turkey on a ministry trip. And so I have the nation of Turkey in my prayer focus because she's there. My cousin Jennifer serves as a full-time missionary in North Central Africa. And so I have had a deep concern for what is happening in terms of the spread of the Ebola outbreak. Because I don't just love Jenny and Jennifer and her family. I love the people through whom Christ has loved by her presence in the ministry of her family there for so many years. So where in the world are your prayers led to focus today? Because God has planted in your heart concern for a people and a place. And could you lift them up today? And could you be prepared to talk about and listen to conversations about really hard things? So this is a good day because of the difficulty that people are facing in so many places. Venezuela, earthquakes, but it could be fires, it could be floods, it could be sweltering heat. I mean, there are dozens of families who are being notified of drowning deaths in France because people are, they're trying to get into the river to cool off, and then, they don't know how to swim. Let other people lead today, maybe, in terms of the depth to which they're willing to go in a conversation about the really hard things. Don't try to fix what's broken or what's wrong. You can't. Yes, we're supposed to speak truth in love, but we're also supposed to be sensitive to emotions, even big emotions. And it's okay for survivors or family members to ask the same questions and recount the same stories multiple times, even over years. It's normal. It's how we process trauma. And so there might be an anniversary coming up. Maybe it's the anniversary of the floods in Central Texas, but maybe it's an anniversary of a fire or an accident or a diagnosis. Just try to remember how you felt when you heard the news. Recount what you remember and then ask how others are feeling about it, how they remember it, how you can pray together. Father, we do come before you with heavy hearts, praying for people who are experiencing trauma today. and for those who are remembering a trauma of the past. We bring it before you in Jesus' name. Our friend Justin Giboney joins us next. You're listening to The Reconnect. Our friend Justin Giboney is back. You can find him at the And campaign. His latest book, Don't Let Nobody Turn You Around, How the Black Church's Public Witness Leads Us Out of the Culture War, is an excellent resource. Justin, welcome back to The Reconnect.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Happy Father's Day. I'm looking back over my shoulder.
You. Thank you.
How are your people?
We're doing well. Just enjoying the summer and all the scheduling things that come along with kids in summertime.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. So as we approach America's 250th, I thought it'd be great to talk with you about the role of the Black church in the making of America. I know that Don't Let Nobody Turn You Around really focuses on 20th century civil rights generation, but my guess is you can look back further than that and reflect with us.
Sure.
So when you think about the role of African Americans at that point, many of them enslaved people, but many of them also not. Like, it's when we talk all the way back to the days of the Revolution, the role of the Black church, it is already real. I mean, whether or not people realize it.
Yeah. So the Black church begins during slavery. And because on many plantations they couldn't openly worship or, read the Bible or any of that, they go into these, hush harbors and they hide away and create churches. And so that's really where the Black church starts. And then, you can even go to Reconstruction where they start building their own churches. But you do see the development of this institution that obviously means so much to the Black community, but also becomes kind of the conscience of America in a lot of ways, has a rich, artistic histories, so many things that it has added to America. And honestly, was the number one source for education for African Americans too. And so most of the contributions that you see coming from the African American community are somewhat rooted in the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're listening right now and you're like, wow, that's a part of American history I haven't thought much about. I lived for a period of time in coastal South Carolina, and so very familiar with the Galpin plantation. It's on Beach Island. It is widely considered the first independent Black congregation in America. Mm-hmm. It was led by an enslaved preacher whose name was David George, and it was organized. There's one cornerstone rock that says 1773 and another that says 1775. And so I'm not sure if in between those two setting of a cornerstone, something happened to a physical structure. But it's a church that was organized by enslaved people in the days of what we would now consider, the forming or the founding of the country that we call America. And so as you are thinking through America's 250th, there is a story that you may not have thought of in terms of the lived experience of people who were here but enslaved. And so I do think it's an opportunity, Justin, for us to talk about, okay, as Christians, how do we openly have that conversation? How do we have a positive patriotism, recognizing that, wow, in the midst of what was for some liberation, for others was also an experience of enslavement? It's a really conflicted story.
It is. This is something that I just wrote about in Christianity Today in their print magazine. And I think the first thing we have to start with the premise that the most important thing as we look back is truth, right? It's not our storylines. It's not some of the mythology coming from one side or the other. It's the truth. And I think when we look for the truth, we see, I really think, some great accomplishments. We see what in many cases, a collaboration between different cultures, sometimes even against their will. And we
Mm-hmm.
see ways in which we made each other better and we borrow from each other's culture, even when we wouldn't admit it. And there are some extraordinary things that come from that. We also see some things that are awful, that are unjust, that are immoral, whether it be slavery or Jim Crow or, whether it be abortion, things like that. We can't run away from that. I think we have to let the history be as complicated as it is. Otherwise, we make it an idol or we throw away rich history that actually can inspire us. Let it be complicated.
Mm. Well, we will certainly look forward to the forthcoming article in CT. Let it be complicated is that is a good, encouraging way of saying it. I think that there are times that we want to act as if, oh well, I mean, if we just ignore how complicated it is, we can move forward. And I think that only by paying attention to how complicated it is can we really honestly engage one another as real people in real relationships. It's
Yeah.
complicated.
And then also acknowledging the problems and how tough they were. But this is why I tell others not living in them. So I grew up understanding the history of America, understanding that my grandmother was raised by people who had been enslaved. So it's not that long ago. So I want to know that. But my elders always told me, you don't live in that. I can't pretend that I'm living in that now. And that doesn't mean there aren't problems now, but I think sometimes we try to live in those moments and, react in a way as if it's happening. The exact same thing is happening to us now. I think that also prevents us from moving forward. Understand it, deal with what we're going through now, but don't live in those really bad moments.
That is such wisdom. That is so good. All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Justin Giboney here in just a moment. If you don't know him, you ought to get to know him. You can get to know him as an author. Don't Let Nobody Turn You Around is his latest book, How the Black Church's Public Witness Leads Us Out of the Culture War. But he's also a preacher. He is engaged politically. He is a pro-life Democrat. I know some of you don't even think that's possible. He is an honest arbiter of the truth and a great friend. And so I just love that he's here with us. You can find Justin at andcampaign.org. We'll continue our conversation in just a moment. You're listening to The Reconnect. Just take the first step. Just take the first step. I mean, every journey begins with a first step, right? And if you want to hike to the top of a mountain or if you just want to, make it around the block, it all starts with a first step. Just take one step, a step out the door. Now, the same holds true in the journey of discipleship with Jesus. A relationship with Jesus actually begins with a first step. Sometimes taking that first step can be really hard, right? Well, if you've got questions about what it means to begin a relationship with Jesus, just take the first step. Text the word faith to 41224. Our friends at the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association are going to hold your hand as you take the first step or the next step in your walk of faith with Jesus. They're going to help you walk with him and talk with him. Take the first step of faith today. Text the word faith to 41224. Our friend Justin Giboney is back. You can find him at campaign, and campaign.org. Justin, I am sure that you have thoughts on what seems to be the ascendance of democratic socialist in the Democratic Party. For those who are listening, maybe Justin, you could define as a category or as a subset. I don't know. Democratic socialists, democratic socialism. They're not socialists because, by the historic definition of the term, but they are socialists of a sort.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and I know a lot of people are hearing this, but maybe not knowing exactly what they're getting at. So I think the core of what the Democratic Socialists of America are about is, number one, that capitalism is by nature exploitative, right? So they want to push against capitalism. They want social programs, and that's the Medicare for all, and free college, and all those things. To your point, they are different than historically what you would think of as a socialist, because they say they're not trying to do it as authoritarians. They want to do it through the democratic process. So they do want more government control, bigger government, but they want to do that through voting and unions and all those things.
It's I mean, I had a conversation recently, and I can't remember exactly who said this, but they were making the point that you are now affirming, and that is that this is not socialism by the strict historic definition of the term. When people describe themselves, particularly younger people in America today, and they describe themselves as socialists or embracing socialism, they are talking about social programs. They are talking about single payer healthcare. I mean, if we're going to use one Bernie Sanders example, they are talking about, at some level, a redistribution of wealth, but doing that through a tax system that would extract a greater percentage from the rich and the ultra rich. Is that fair to say? Like, they are looking for the societal benefit to the many, who they see as in some way underprivileged or under-resourced, and they are looking for a way within our current system to accomplish that.
I think there's something to that. If you look at our economy, especially for young people, it's not what they were promised, right? And so you go to school, you get these loans, and now you have a hard time paying for them. There's just less jobs available. What you make, prices are going up. What you make, is it meeting that? You have trouble buying a house. And so I think to a lot of young people, they see capitalism as having failed. The issue is, if you listen to some of the Democratic Socialists for America leaders and you dig into their work, I wouldn't say that it's innocent either. I think anytime that you give the government that much power, and I'm not even a small government guy, right? I think we should have a smart and well-regulated society, and there's place for the government to add. There are places where we need government. At the same time, when you give government too much power, I think it all depends on who's in the office, right? And they may not be an authoritarian, but if the government is in control of a lot more things than they are now, they might as well be. And so if you look at some of the things that are said, especially I would look at some of the Democratic Socialists in New York about what they want to, nationalizing all the airlines and all. You get closer and closer to that. So I don't think everybody's intention is that. I think if you look closely, there are some people that do take it there. And so I think it's something to be aware of, even though I don't think it's right to call every person that's talking about this a socialist, as I think some people on the right are, a communist, as I think some people on the right are doing.
No, that's why this is one of those things that's complicated, and we have to actually talk with accuracy about, and we have to ask more questions. We should ask people, well, what do you mean when you say that? Like, please describe to me what that means to you. Hey, right. We have some people on the text line who have some words for you, Justin.
Okay.
Rebecca would like to say welcome back. And she is acknowledging that several years ago, you gave her the words that she needed at work related to DEI. So I don't know what you said, but she's very grateful.
Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate the encouragement.
Deborah Stein thinks you should run for president. So
don't hold your breath. I appreciate it, though.
Exactly. Justin, if you run for president, would you consider me as a running mate? Because I feel like that would be fun. I don't want to run for president.
You for the president and me as the running mate would be more probably better.
I totally feel like I would be super supportive and yeah, I don't want to put my family through that. You probably don't want to put your family through it either. But see, that would be the kind of stir up some conversation. It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Justin, what has your attention? That's the other question on the text line. What has Justin's attention these days? That's what people want to know.
I'm really keeping an eye on, my focus is usually the church, and I'm really keeping an eye on relations within the church across political and racial divides. And what I'm saying isn't good. I truly believe that we have a mandate, a command in that we must love one another, that we need to be unified. And I just see too many people on both sides of that, all sides of that, maybe I should say, that are not making an effort to be unified, that have given up on the idea of either racial reconciliation or having conversations with people they disagree with politically. And so that is my concern. That's my next part of one of the next projects that I'm pushing into, to say, hey, Christians need to be called out for not making an effort to unite with other Christians. That is unfaithful. That, in my opinion, is rebellion.
So I'm thinking about conversations that we've had recently with Pastor Mark DeMaz. His book Disruption: Repurposing the Church to Redeem the Community is really, really good, and I think that you guys would like each other. So I'm gonna have Paul connect you with him as well, because he is certainly talking on the same page, and equally as concerned as you are that the church would manifest the reality of the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace, that we would actually be a provisional and living demonstration of the kingdom of God and what it's going to look like when we get there, that we would be a provisional demonstration of that here and now. So I think it's always good to find other people who are seeing the world the way we're seeing it and positively impacting it. So his church might be a good one to give you a little hope and encouragement, and find somebody to walk with as well.
That's great.
Yeah. Thank you as always for being here. Happy belated Father's Day, and have a wonderful July 4th.
You do the same. Thanks for having me as always, Carmen. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's Justin Giboney. You can connect with him at the AND Campaign, ANDcampaign.org. Church Politics Podcast. His latest book, Don't Let Nobody Turn You Around: How the Black Church's Public Witness Leads Us Out of the Culture War. It would be a great book study for your summer book club at church, in your community group, on your street, whatever you're doing. Let's talk a little bit about packing up and moving. Get this stat. 23% of American families with children under 18. So that's like 1 in 4, almost. 23% of American families with children under 18 move every year. Like every year, 23%. It's not the same families that are moving every year, although in some cases it is. But 23% of American families with children under 18 move. Like every single year, that's the percentage of that population that's on the move. Americans with children are literally on the move. And families with children under 6, they're the most likely to move. Think about your own life. I mean, my parents moved from Utah to Indiana, and then from Dice Acres to the farm on Reagan Road, and then to Tampa, all before I was 7. I remember the last move from the farm to Florida. Moving is big for families, and it's really big for little kids. So I'm excited to talk next with Jean and Grace. They wrote We Are Home When We're Together. It's a book for families as they navigate the big emotions that little kids have when the family moves. That's up next here on The Reconnect. When's the last time you moved? When was the first time that you moved? How many times did you move when you were a kid? We are going to talk with Jean Stouffer and Grace Start. They are a mother-daughter design duo, hosts of The Established Home over on the Magnolia Network, and they're here today with their children's book, We Are Home When We're Together. Jean and Grace, welcome to The Reconnect.
Thanks for having us, Carmen. Hi, Carmen.
Absolutely. Hi. So anybody that's ever packed up a life into cardboard boxes knows that moving is complex. It's about a whole lot more than just changing, that address change card you got to submit in all those places. There's a lot of emotional disruption, especially, for people who are young. So talk with us about, where this starts for you. Where does this idea for this book come from?
Go ahead, Grace.
This book came about after my family moved with our 4 kids, and there was a mix of emotions from the kids. Some were really excited, and others a little bit more apprehensive. And so, in reflecting on that move and going through the emotions with the kids, this kind of poem was born that became the children's book, We Are Home When We're Together.
I love that. Talk about this as a collaborative work because the two of you obviously collaborate across the board on many, many things. So just talk with us a little bit about the collaborative process. Jean, maybe you want to take this one up.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, as Grace said, she did write this poem that was she sent to me, and I just felt it was so poignant and beautiful. And what happens with getting something from that stage to a beautifully illustrated book is where I came in because it's always so nice to have someone to bounce ideas off of and
100%.
where things need a little bit more filling in or a direction for art or even a note to parents. It was so nice to have each other to write together, edit together. And it was really, and I think it's often the case with our design work too. Someone will have the first idea, and then the other person then comes in, and then there's this wonderful collaboration afterwards that produces the end product.
Yeah, what the two of you do is genuinely beautiful, and I appreciate that. I think that bringing the beautiful forward into the world in so many ways is such a gift, and it's such a testimony to who God is and His character and His ways. So I appreciate that in your design work, but then also in this work as well. If you guys want to check out what Jean and Grace do professionally as a mother-daughter design duo, you can check out The Established Home on the Magnolia Network. You can, I'm going to say it's Stouffer Home. Is that right? Stoffer.
Yes, you're
Am I
right.
pronouncing that correctly? Okay. So stofferhome.com. We're talking about their collaborative book. It's a children's book or a book for families with children. We Are Home When We're Together. And so as you're thinking back about all of the logistical hurdles that might exist when you're moving, have you ever thought about how you teach or prepare your child to navigate all of that? And so, Grace, let's dig in a little bit more there. Like, this is an opportunity to teach our kids about the unchanging nature of God who doesn't move, even though we do.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And encouraging the kids to trust God with the future, even when it's unknown to us, because that's something that's hard for us to do. Naturally, I think as humans, we try to control the future. And so to trust God with it is something that can bring us peace, even in uncertain times.
That's true. Yeah, we felt like as we were really working on this book, and there were so many times that I read the same text of the book, and it brought tears to my eyes because these lessons, as parents are going to be reading this to their children, are so important, even for someone at my age, to remember that God knows the future and He loves us, and that He's really worthy of trusting every single step of the way, even if we don't know the 3 steps in advance, which, like Grace said, our nature wants to know that. And it's just a beautiful thing to trust God with it.
Okay, I want to do something that may be unusual for you. So we're going to do a little word association. So this is for both of you to think about and each of you to think about. So I'm going to ask each of you to answer this question. It's not really a question, it's a word association. All right, are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. When I say the word home, where does your heart go?
Well, I would say for me, home is different than house. Home is where there's refuge and security and love and invitation.
I love that. Grace, how about you? When I say the word home, where does your heart go?
Yeah, I think that it goes with people, not place. Home is when you're with the people that you love. And then I also think of eternal home, which is with God.
Hmm. That's so good.
Hmm.
Um, all right, as you're listening right now, when I say the word home, where does your heart go? Like if you're listening, then you hear Jean say, like, home is different than house. Home is about security. And Grace says it goes with people, not place. Also thinking of our eternal home. So as you reflect on that, as you're listening right now, when I say the word home, where does your heart go? We're talking with Jean Stover and Grace Start. They are the co-authors of We Are Home When We're Together. It is a book for families with children who are on the move, considering a move, trying to understand, the move of a best friend. It's an opportunity for us to trust God through life's changes. 23% of American households with little kids are on the move every single year. And so somebody that's on the move, even if it's not your family. And so I'd love to connect you with Jean and Grace and with this resource. We'll do that on the text line, 877-933-2484. Uh, Jean or Grace, either one of you could take this. What is maybe one practical faith-centered strategy that you offer in the book to parents to help them process the big emotions of moving?
One of the lines talks about thinking through about what you might do with your things, because I think little children, like where their things are, their toys or things like that are important to them. And there's a page in the book that talks about let's sort through these and make a box to give away, a box to take. And it's, involve the kid in the activity of moving, and so that it's not just a big shock day of. They've been preparing in advance for it.
That's really good. Grace, have you got another one? Practical idea offered in the book that, that helps little kids deal with the big emotions of moving?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that happens in the book is the mom is tucking the kid into bed and praying with the child and saying, "Help us to God, help us to look to you each day." And that's in the Lord's Prayer too. Give us this day our daily bread, and to look to God every single day, no matter what, is a practical thing.
Yeah, I actually love, even though we might not think of it as practical instruction, the things that happen in the book, that take place in the book, they function as practical instruction, even though it's not like a list of things parents should do.
Yeah,
So
that's true, Carmen.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the instructional nature of seeing it modeled. And Grace, I think that's what you're pointing to there. Like the mom is modeling something that certainly a parent who is reading the book could adopt, and repeat. So I think that's
Well,
that
isn't
is
that
super
true,
helpful.
Carmen?
Yeah.
The modeling aspect of parenting is probably the most key piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, and you guys are you're offering that in such a beautiful and yet subtle way. All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Jean and Grace here in just a moment. We'd love to connect you with them and with this resource, a children's book or book for families with children. We Are Home When We're Together. This would be a great gift for you to give a family that is preparing for a move. It would be a great book to add to the room where new families might be visiting the church for the very first time. This is a great resource to have on hand, and it's physically, it's beautiful. So We Are Home When We're Together. We'll send you the link on the text line, 877-933-2484. When we come back, I'm going to ask Jean and Grace to talk with us about how families can actively involve children in setting up a new home while remaining anchored in God's faithfulness. That's up next here on The Reconnect. Hey, I really like it that you listen whenever you want, wherever you are, at all times of the day and night. That is so cool. So thank you so very much for all the ways in which you support this ministry with your prayers and words of encouragement. Right now, in order for this podcast to be available everywhere all the time for everyone, I actually need your help. Could you support this podcast right now so that more people in more places at every hour of every day could hear about Jesus and grow in their relationship with him? Click the link in the show notes or give now at myfaithradio.com. And thank you so much again for listening to this podcast. One of the things that Jim, my husband, and I say to one another frequently, just to, catch each other's eye and say, all the way home to the Father's house. So do you know where you're headed? Do you know where you're going to spend eternally? Do you know that your forever home is with God? That is certainly the ultimate point of We Are Home When We're Together. It is a book for families with children. Jean Stouffer and Grace Start are the powerful mother-daughter duo. They collaborate together a lot, not just on works like this, but in work in general over at the Established Home on the Magnolia Network, and they're here with us today. So when we talk about actively involving kids in setting up a new home, maybe are there some practical things to talk about there?
Well, it's not in the book, but we've been thinking about this quite a bit, that it's very helpful to take a kid, if at all possible, sometimes it's not, to the new home in advance and case out what might be happening in and around the neighborhood, what the yard of the house might be like, what his or her which room they might have, if there's a library or a park nearby that they could get excited about and start thinking about the future instead of longing for the past.
That is really good. Forward looking. I have some friends who they moved a lot when their kids were little because he, at that age and stage, he was an NFL football player. And so I don't know how many times they moved, but it was a lot. And they would load up the kids and they would go drive around in the neighborhood around a church. So they picked a church first. And then they would drive around the neighborhood and look for sale signs. Because for them, locating the whole thing around a community of believers that they knew they could invest in very quickly because they knew they probably weren't going to be there very long. And so I think there are some strategies related to this in terms of how different families approach things. I think for a lot of folks, it's probably, what's going to be proximate to the reason we're moving to the new place. And if that's work related, let's say, then, what's proximate to that and familiarizing, yourself with the community. I love the idea of casing the neighborhood. That's such great language.
Yeah, and I love that idea of picking a church and then picking where you might live near that church. I am writing that one down.
Yeah, well, Fred and Jan Hoagland, I could connect you with them. It's a sweet story. They're now ancient of days, but that is literally how they picked the house in every community that they ever lived in, is that they picked a church first.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so different.
Inspired.
Right? Yeah. All right, Grace, we're going to let you have the last word. How are your kids adjusting to the new place, and what do they say about the book?
The kids have adjusted very well, and we're actually preparing to move again. So we're going through all the emotions again and reminding them how they were taken care of in the move. There are so many things to look forward to, and they're having emotions again, which is completely normal. So we're walking through it again.
And how old are they now? What's the range?
5 to 11.
All right. I feel like the 11-year-old could help draft the next chapter, right? And it could be on the move again.
Yeah, he could.
Because I don't know how many times I've moved over the course of my life. I could try to count it up, but it's a lot. And you're right. There are things to look forward to every time. And the older I get, the more and more excited I am getting about my heavenly home. I am,
yes, Carmen.
making the final move. And let me tell you, all of this, dealing with all of the stuff that like the physical stuff that you have to like rid yourself of before you move to your final home. Like I'm telling you, like
Mm-hmm.
books could
I
be
agree.
written. Many books could be written. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for joining us today. What a delight to have an opportunity to talk with both of you.
Thanks so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
All right, Grace, blessings on the preparations for the next move. Jean Stouffer and Grace Start, authors of We Are Home When We're Together. Also the wonderful mother-daughter design duo, hosts of the Established Home on the Magnolia Network. So love to connect you with them. You could just easily connect at stoufferhome.com. We'll send you the link to the book on the text line, 877-933-2484. As we head out into the world that God so loves, let me encourage you to get into the Word of God so that the Word of God can get into you. World's going to squeeze you today, for sure. You're going to get squeezed. So am I. And so what's going to come out? What's going to come out of you when the world squeezes you today? Well, what's going to come out is whatever you're full of. And everybody's full of something. So let's get all filled up on the grace and truth offered in God's Word so that that's what will come out of us when we get squeezed today. And maybe today you could positively give somebody a little squeeze, right? Maybe there's somebody that could use a hug today or a shoulder or a leg up. A lot of folks dealing with a lot of very difficult things, and we recognize that. Certainly on our Pray the News today, I'm going to be praying for the people of Venezuela directly affected by those deadly earthquakes. I want to continue praying for all of the families affected by the catastrophic flooding a year ago this coming week in Central Texas. It looms large. The Eastland family that has now filed for bankruptcy in relationship to Camp Mystic. There's just a lot of grief and a lot of loss. Maybe you know someone who's got a loved one facing a procedure or in the hospital or planning a funeral. My husband's family is engaged again in funeral preparations. And I just, my heart goes out right now to families that are suffering loss of all kinds. Some of it is planned loss, the loss of the place where they've been for a while and then looking forward to that new place. But not everybody that you and I know is looking forward to heaven. They're not looking forward to living with God for eternity. That's because they don't yet know that Jesus has gone to prepare a place for us, that where he is, we might be also. So that might be an important introduction that you need to make to somebody today. You know what I mean? To tell them, hey, Jesus has actually gone to prepare a place for you. Someday you're going to make a final move, and I hope it is to heaven, to the home that Christ has prepared for you. Maybe we could even live next door to each other up there in heaven forever. I mean, that would be fun. Save me a place at the table kind of a thing. All right, my friends, as you go out into the world that God so loves, recognize who you are as an ambassador of the King and the kingdom. And don't give people a piece of your mind. That's not what they need. They need the peace of the mind of Christ. So go out there and give it to them. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Have a great day, and God bless. Thanks for listening to The Reconnect with Carmen LaBerge. Let us know how we can help you more fully reconnect the eternal with the everyday. We want to walk with you throughout your journey of discipleship, so let's connect. You can text us at 877-933-2484 or connect with us online at myfaithradio.com and on all our social media. I look forward to connecting with you as we each seek to reconnect the eternal with the everyday.